The next letter in your personality test is how you make decisions. So let's talk about the two differences. We have thinkers on the left, feelers on the right. Thinkers, they like to use logic and reason to come to all of their decisions. Where people who are feelers, they like to use their hearts and emotions in its much more complex ways that they make decisions. Let's take a look at the thinkers. So thinkers, everything is about logic and reason. They are always interested in finding the most logical, reasonable choice. And if the choice isn't clear, then they make the best decision they can. So this is where they're always motivated. They're always motivated to simply come to the most logical, reasonable choice when there's ever a decision to be made. So let's talk about the strengths of the thinker personality. They're logical. Now this is really great with trading because trading is a very logical game. We follow rules and systems, and logical analysis is very, very important. And like I said, trading is never black and white, but logical thinkers, they come to the conclusion of which is the best decision to make with the data that you have available. And that's really what it means to be a trader. They have objectivity. They're very good at looking at things and separating their feelings out from it. So they want to take a look at it and say, okay, I might feel one way, but I'm going to look at the logic and reason and without emotion, make the right decision. And they always have clear goals and objectives. Every decision the thinker makes is to meet the overall goals and objectives. So if their overall goal is to be a profitable trader, every decision they make is going to be to meet that goal. And if it doesn't meet that goal, they're not going to make that decision. The thinking personality trait is a great trait for trading. However, as all the traits, they have their strengths, there are some weaknesses that the thinker needs to be wary of. They are non-flexible. Now, thinkers are very linear thinkers, and they make the best decision based on the data they have, and they say, okay, well, this is what should happen. Here's the problem. In the market, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes what should happen doesn't happen, and the exact opposite happens. You have to be flexible as a trader and understand, hey, sometimes my analysis that might have been flawless just doesn't work out. And so what happens is they say, you know what, I'm going to cling to logic and reason. I'm going to wait for this market to return, and I'll be right in the end because my logic. They're skeptical. They fight trends. Now look, I'm a thinker personality, so for me this was very hard in the beginning. When the markets were running higher, I thought to myself, they're getting carried away with their emotions. All these people are just throwing money in with their emotions and they're stupid, and I'm not going to do that. And so what happened was I would bet against it, and I took losses. And then I finally decided I'm not going to bet against it, but I wasn't going to join all the idiots while this market ran higher. I learned that I was just leaving money on the table. It's very difficult as a thinker to go with the emotional crowd. It goes against everything that we believe. We try to deny that we even have emotions, and we're only going to make logical, rational decisions. Here's the problem. We're human. We can't get rid of that. And so if we completely ignore and deny that we have emotions, those emotions are going to undermine us all the time because we're not even looking at them. And so a lot of times thinkers, they don't even like to get into psychology of trading because they think I don't need it because I'm a logical person. Sadly, we all need trading psychology. But let's take a look at the number one weakness, and this is fighting trends. The number one weakness of the thinker personality is that when the markets get emotional and they get irrational and they start to either run higher or lower very strongly, thinkers are thinking to themselves, okay, well, this is a big emotional response, and that's wrong. Emotional responses are wrong, and I'm going to go the other way because I'm not going to go along with all the emotional idiots. I value logic and reason. These people that are buying the market right now obviously don't. I'm not going to go with the sheep. I'm not going to get caught up in the emotion. So they either bet against it or they sit it out. And so that's a big mistake that thinkers make, is that when the markets are really running and trending strongly, they will fight it the entire way up. This was very difficult for me to do the first 5 years of trading, and I finally just had to realize, hey, I want to be with the idiots. They're making all the money right now. I want to be with the idiots. Look, I'm not going to be an idiot in the end. I'll take my profits and I'll have a good life, but I'm going to go with them right now while they're running because this is where you can make a lot of money. Thinkers have a hard time with that, and if you're a thinker, you need to get to the point where you can turn that off and just go with the market. If you have an F in your personality score, you are a feeler. Now let's talk about this, because I think the feelers, they get a bad rap because it's always like, oh, they make all their emotions with their hearts and they don't listen to logic and reason. That is absolutely not true. What is true with the feelers is that they use other things with logic and reason to make decisions. So they still use logic and reason. They look at things, but they look at it in a much bigger way. Like, okay, how is this decision going to affect the people around me? How is this going to affect the way I feel about myself? How is this going to affect all these other things? And so it's actually a much more complex decision than just using your emotions as a way to make decisions. That's not what this is all about. It's just a much more complex way, and they care more about the outcome and how they feel after the decision than they do about the logic and reason. So let's talk about the strengths that the feelers have in trading. They feel very in tune with markets. They get into the flow. And so when the markets are running and going up and down, they feel where the market is. And they will go with the flows, and then when the flows end, they will just pack up and leave. One of my favorite stories that goes right along with this is that one of our traders years ago, he lives in Hawaii and he is a trader, and he is also a lawyer, and he's also a musician, and he's a feeler. And one day we were having some drinks together, and he said, Rob, you know what? Trading is just like surfing. I'll paddle out there in the morning and I'll wait out there for an hour or two. And the waves will come in, and I'm just waiting for the right wave. I'm just waiting for that right one. And once that right one comes, I'm ready for it. I let all the other little ones go by, and I catch the wave that I was waiting for, and I have an exhilarating ride, and I go in, and it makes my entire day. And some days I don't catch any waves, and that's okay. I love that story because that is what a feeler is. That's how they trade. They are really just looking at these waves coming in and saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait for the ones that feel right to me. Now, since the feelers deal in emotions, they are much, much better than the thinkers when it comes to trading psychology, because they understand that emotions are part of everything. They know that no matter how much you try to use logic and reason, you're still human and you're going to use the emotion. So they put in a lot of effort into the trading psychology side, where the thinkers are sometimes reluctant to do that. And they follow trends. This is the best strength of the feelers, is they're really good at going with the flow. They're going with the flow. Hey, if it's a massive bull market and things are running, they just jump on and enjoy it. They don't try to fight it with logic and reason of, oh, it's gone too high, it's too expensive, it's too this. They just let it go. They're really, really good at following trends and really making a ton of money when the markets are strong. Now, of course, every personality trait has a dark side, so let's talk about the weaknesses. Emotions do tend to get into the way of decision making, especially when they are screen watching. Markets can become very volatile very quickly. And when this happens, the feelers, they're going to feel things. And if they're screen watching, they're going to deviate from plans and do something different just because of how they feel at the moment. They are also eternal optimists. So when they get into a trade and the market moves against them, they say, hey, you know what? I'm in some pain right now, but nothing lasts forever. I'll just wait because everything's in waves. Everything always comes back. Here's the problem. There's a great saying in the market. The market has the ability to stay irrational much longer than you have the ability to stay solvent. Your capital must be protected, and you can't just be like, oh, it'll come back, it'll be fine. It's not fine. You have to take action, and sometimes this is difficult for eternal optimists. And because of the emotions that are involved in trading, they're going to have spontaneous entries and exits. They're going to have a little bit harder time following a well-defined trading plan, especially if they do a lot of screen watching. If they do a lot of screen watching, they're going to have these very intense, strong feelings, and they're going to take actions on that. Now, the number one weakness of a feeler is I have delusions of grandeur or delusions of failure. What happens is they really feel, and so their P&L tells them how they're doing as a trader. And if they are making money, they feel great, and they feel powerful, and they feel smart. And here's the problem. When you get into that point, you start to deviate from plans. You start to take on too much risk. Let's take an example where you flip a coin and it's 5 heads in a row. Now, a logical person would say, hey, it's not going to be heads forever. Let's cut back and let's be more cautious. A feeler is going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling it. My luck is going great. And they will push it even further during those times. And then in a time where they've called tails 5 times in a row, it's been heads, all of a sudden they say, I don't feel like I can trade this game. I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. And they usually pull back and actually trade less, which is a problem because you know that when you flip a coin, it's going to be 50-50 heads or tails over a long period of time. This is the biggest one. Just have to manage your emotions and put in some different metrics other than profit and loss. Put in metrics like, hey, I met my win-loss percentage goal. I met my profit factor goal. I met my goal that I wasn't going to overtrade this week. Give yourself other goals and you're going to feel much better about yourself as a feeler. As you can see, both of these personality traits have some great things about them and some negatives. It's just up to you to figure out which one you are and how to trade in spite of it, how to use those strengths and how to cull those weaknesses to where you are a profitable, happy trader in the end. Thanks, everybody.